Commander Park Hyun-woo had been Earth's representative to the Galactic Council for 3 years, but he had never seen the emergency chamber this tense. The massive, crystalline walls pulsed with nervous energy from the assembled delegates, their bioluminescent patterns flickering like dying stars. The air recyclers worked overtime, struggling to process the mix of oxygen, methane, and exotic gases needed by the diverse alien species packed into the room. The holographic display dominated the center of the chamber, showing the charred remains of what had once been New Haven Colony. Hyun-woo's weathered hands clenched into fists as the desperate transmission played for the third time. Each replay felt like a knife twisting in his gut. Mayday, Mayday. This is New Haven Colony, on Kepler 4, for to see. We have hostile ships in orbit. Unknown vessels, approximately 12 in number. They're not responding to our hails. The voice of Zephyrian Colony leader Veltar carried across the chamber, his normally melodious tone cracking with terror. Wait, they're charging weapons. Dear ancestors, they're targeting civilian centers. The primary hospital, Justo Gods, they're firing on the schools. The transmission erupted in screams and static before cutting to black. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the Metherian delegates, usually chattering constantly through their vocal gill slits, remained mute. Their tentacles drooped. With grief, Counselor Thekra, an elegant humanoid with pale blue skin and silver eyes, rose from her crystalline seat. Her voice trembled as she addressed the assembly. The reconnaissance ships returned 6 hours ago. 2.3 million. Souls confirmed dead. The entire colony has been glassed from orbit. Nothing remains but molten craters where cities once stood. She activated her personal display, showing aerial footage of the devastation, where New Haven's capital city had thrived just days before. Only a smooth lake of cooled glass reflected. The alien sun, the residential districts, the schools, the parks where Zephyrian children had played among the flowering crystal trees, all gone, erased, as if they had never existed. The attack was systematic, continued Thekra, her composure cracking. They hit the hospitals first, then the schools, then the residential areas. They wanted to maximize civilian casualties. This wasn't conquest or resource acquisition. This was genocide for the sake of genocide. Murmurs of horror rippled through the chamber. The Aquilin representative, a massive crab-like being, clicked his claws in distress. 72 standard hours our peacekeeping forces searched. State-of-the-art sensors, quantum trackers, psionic hounds, nothing. The attackers vanished completely, interjected Senior Analyst Mordok. A thin, insectoid creature whose compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights like jewels. We found plasma residue signatures consistent with military-grade hegemony weapons. The molecular structure suggests Korth origin technology. The mention of the Korth hegemony sent another wave of fear through the assembly. The warlike species had been testing boundaries for decades, conducting raids on isolated colonies and claiming they were training exercises or territorial disputes. The Council's diplomatic protests had been met with sneers and threats. High Counselor Velmuth, standing nearly 10 feet tall with his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber lights, turned his multifaceted eyes toward the lone human in the room. His mandibles clicked nervously as he spoke. Commander Park, your species has considerable experience with warfare. The Council has voted. We formally request Earth's military assistance in this matter. Hyun-woo had been expecting this moment. He had watched the other species for years, admiring their advanced technology and peaceful nature, but also noting their lack of true military experience. Most Galactic Council races had evolved past warfare centuries ago. They built beautiful cities, created art that could make angels weep, and solved problems through discussion and compromise. But they had forgotten how to fight monsters. Hyun-woo's jaw tightened as he looked at the images still rotating in the holographic display. A burned playground with melted swing sets. The skeleton of a school where tiny desks had been fused into abstract sculptures of grief. A hospital where the pediatric ward had taken a direct hit in his 30 years of military service. From the Marine Corps to Space Command to diplomatic security, He had seen humanity's capacity for both creation and destruction. But this footage from New Haven Colony made something primal and furious awaken in his chest. These weren't soldiers who had died fighting for their beliefs. These were children who had been murdered while trying to hide under their desks. "I'll relay your request to Fleet Command immediately," he said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of barely contained rage. "But I can tell you right now, Counselor, my people don't take kindly to child killers. When we find whoever did this, there won't be much left to put on trial." The alien delegates exchanged glances, suddenly remembering why Earth was known throughout the galaxy as the Death World, not just for its harsh environment, but for the warriors it had forged in its crucible of endless conflict. The bridge of the TFS Indomitable hummed with controlled chaos as Admiral Joachim Taman stood before the massive holographic tactical display. The three-dimensional map showed the deployment of the largest human fleet ever assembled, stretching across several light-years of space. 200 ships of various classes floated in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the cold light of distant stars. Taman was a career military man, silver hair and battle scars telling the story of humanity's rise among the stars. But nothing in his 40-year service had prepared him for the rage. Burning in his chest as he watched the footage from New Haven Colony play on repeat, the melted playground equipment, the crater where a children's hospital had stood, a glass. Shadows of families who had been vaporized while trying to flee. "Fleet status report," he ordered, his voice cutting through the bridge chatter. Lieutenant Commander Lee So-young, the fleet's operations officer, looked up from her glowing console. Her fingers danced across holographic interfaces as data streams flowed past her augmented reality contacts. 200 ships assembled and ready, sir. The Retribution, Vengeance, and Justice carrier groups are in formation. Each carrier is loaded with a full complement of fighters and bombers. She paused, checking another readout. Marine General Choi Dae-ho reports 50,000 troops locked and loaded across the transport ships. The Thunder, Lightning, and Storm-heavy cruisers are standing by with full ammunition loads. Engineering reports all fusion reactors are running at optimal efficiency. Taman nodded grimly, his weathered hands gripping the railing of the command platform. Around him, the bridge crew worked with the deadly efficiency that had made Earth's military feared across the galaxy. These weren't just soldiers, they were warriors forged in the crucible of humanity's violent history. Every conflict, every war, every hard-won lesson had led to this moment. "Weapon status?" he asked. Commander Park Sung-ho, the ship's tactical officer, turned from his station. All kinetic batteries loaded with depleted uranium rounds. Plasma. Torpedoes armed and ready. The new quantum disruptors are online and calibrated. "Sir, we're carrying enough firepower to crack a small moon." The Admiral's jaw tightened as he studied the tactical display. The alien species of the Galactic Council had advanced technology, but they were scientists and philosophers. They built beautiful ships designed for exploration and diplomacy. Humanity built ships designed for one purpose: to hunt and kill their enemies. "Communications, open a channel to all ships," Taman commanded. Ensign Nam Ji-hoo, but already a veteran of 3 space engagements, activated the fleet-wide broadcast system. "Channel open, Admiral. All ships receiving." Taman stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's fury across the vast armada. Every ship, every soldier, every pilot could hear him clearly. "Warriors of Earth, today we hunt monsters. For too long, we've watched from the sidelines as peaceful species begged for protection from predators. Today that changes," he gestured toward, the holographic images still playing behind him. "The enemy calls us Deathworlders, call us savages from a brutal planet. They think these are insults. They're wrong. These are our qualifications. We are the sword of the innocent, the shield of the defenseless. We are what stands between civilization and chaos." Across the fleet, crew members stopped their work to listen. In the fighter bays, pilots paused while checking their weapons. In the Marine barracks, soldiers looked up from cleaning their rifles. In the engine rooms, engineers turned from their fusion reactors. "Lock and load, people," Taman continued, his voice growing harder with each word. "We're going to war." And when we're done, the galaxy will remember why they should fear Earth's children. The response was immediate and electric. On the destroyer Wrath, Captain Iso Min-jun turned to his weapons officer. You heard the Admiral? Prep the kinetic batteries? Full combat load? I want every round chambered and every targeting system. Hot? Lieutenant Kim Hee-jin grinned as she activated the ship's weapon systems. Kinetic batteries online, sir. Plasma torpedoes armed. Point defense systems ready. We're locked and loaded. Similar scenes played out across the Armada. On the carrier Retribution, fighter pilots strapped themselves into their cockpits, running pre-flight checks on their weapon systems. Captain Lee Dong-wook watched his pilots prepare for battle, each one a veteran of countless engagements. Remember your training, he told them over the comm system. Fast, brutal, and precise. We hit them before they know we're there. In the Marine Bays, General Choi Dae-ho walked among his troops as they checked their equipment one final time. These weren't just soldiers, they were humanity's finest warriors. Each one equipped with powered armor and weapons that could punch through ship hulls. 30 seconds to hyperspace jump, announced the navigation officer. Tae-min watched as the massive fleet began to align for the jump. The fusion reactors of 200 ships hummed with barely contained power. Weapon systems glowed with ready energy. 50,000 Marines stood ready to bring justice to those who had murdered children. All ships report ready for hyperspace jump, Admiral, reported Lee So-young. Tae-min nodded, his eyes never leaving the images of New Haven Colony. Then let's go remind the galaxy why they should fear the humans. At the space around the fleet began to distort as the hyperspace generators activated. One by one, the ships vanished into the twisted dimensions of faster-than-light travel, carrying with them the fury of an entire species and the promise of justice for the innocent dead, the abandoned. Korth Outpost drifted silently in the void, its twisted metal hull scarred by weapon fire and meteor impacts. Colonel Yoon Ha-jin materialized inside the main corridor, his advanced stealth suit's optical camouflage flickering off like digital rain. The air was thin and cold, filled with the metallic taste of recycled atmosphere and something else. The lingering stench of fear behind him. 6 members of Earth's elite Shadow Corps appeared one by one, their movements precise and deadly silent. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They were humanity's apex predators, trained in every form of warfare known to the galaxy, and a few that weren't. Sweep and clear, Hee-jin whispered into his throat mic. Full spectrum scan. I want to know everything that happened here. The team dispersed like ghosts through the darkened corridors. Their advanced scanners painted the walls with invisible light, reading energy signatures, chemical traces, and molecular residue that told the story of this place's final hours. The Korth had abandoned this outpost in a hurry, leaving behind equipment and data that would prove invaluable. Sergeant Park Yoon-ji, the team's cyber warfare specialist, knelt beside a damaged computer terminal in what had once been the command center. Her fingers danced across her portable quantum interface, bypassing alien security protocols that had taken the Korth years to develop. To her enhanced neural implants, their encryption was like a children's puzzle. Found something, she whispered. Her voice, barely audible even to her teammates' enhanced hearing. Lines of alien text scrolled across her display, automatically translated by her suit's AI. Colonel, you need to see this. Hee-jin moved to her position with the fluid grace of a predator. Around them, the outpost creaked and groaned as solar radiation heated its metal hull. What is it? Communications logs, Yoon-ji replied, her voice dripping with disgust as she read the translated text. The Korth call them culling raids. They've been systematically hitting defenseless colonies for over 40 years while the Galactic Council filed diplomatic complaints. She pulled up a holographic display showing the Korth military's organizational chart. Look at this. They have an entire division dedicated to what they call livestock management. They literally see peaceful species as animals to be harvested for resources and territory. Ha-jin's jaw clenched as he read the reports. colony after colony wiped out with ruthless efficiency. Civilian populations targeted first to break morale. Children specifically hunted because they represented the future. The Korth had turned genocide into a science. Download everything, he ordered. Every communication, every battle plan, every supply manifest. I want to know where they eat, where they sleep, and where they keep their ships. Meanwhile, several light years away in the twisted dimensions of hyperspace, Admiral Taman stood in the war room of the Indomitable, studying intelligence reports flowing in from dozens of human reconnaissance teams. The three-dimensional holographic map showed the Korth hegemony's territory, with red dots marking confirmed military installations and yellow dots indicating suspected bases. The Korth operate from a network of hidden bases, reported Intelligence Officer Commander Jung Min-seok. They move their fleets constantly, using asteroid fields and nebulae as cover. Their commanders believe they're untouchable because they never stay in one place long enough for retaliation. Timon smiled grimly. The Korth were about to learn the difference between hiding from the Galactic Council's bureaucrats and hiding from Earth's military machine. They were right to hide from diplomats. But they can't hide from us. His cum system crackled to life. Admiral, this is Captain Lim Jae-won, aboard the stealth frigate Shadow. We've located a high-priority target in the Rigel sector. Taman ordered. Major supply depot, sir. Coordinates uploading now. Minimal defenses, but maximum impact on their logistics network. If we take it out, we'll cripple their ability to resupply their raiding fleets. Taman studied the tactical data as it appeared on his display. The depot was hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid, protected by only 2 patrol ships and a handful of automated defense platforms. It was perfect. Light them up, Captain, he ordered. Across 17 star systems, human forces struck with surgical precision. The Shadow materialized out of stealth mode directly above the Korth supply depot, its plasma cannons already charging. The 2 patrol ships never knew what hit them. 1 second they were drifting peacefully in the asteroid's shadow. The next they were expanding clouds of superheated gas. The depot's automated defenses tried to respond, but human electronic warfare specialists had already corrupted their targeting systems. Plasma torpedoes tore through the asteroid's artificial atmosphere, detonating supply caches and ammunition depots in chains of brilliant explosions. Similar attacks played out across Korth space. Supply convoys vanished in balls of plasma fire. As human destroyers dropped out of hyperspace with weapons already firing, communication relays went dark as Special Forces teams planted quantum explosives on their primary transmitters. Forward bases simply ceased to exist, their locations marked only by expanding debris fields that glowed with residual radiation. On the border world of Keth Prime, a Korth patrol fleet received a priority transmission from their command center. The message was brief and terrifying. All units, code black emergency. Unknown hostile forces attacking our installations. Casualties unknown. All patrols return to base immediately. But when the patrol fleet arrived at their base, they found only empty space and the twisted wreckage of what had once been a mighty fortress. Floating among the debris was a single message buoy, broadcasting on all frequencies in perfect Korth language. This is the Terran Defense Force. Your crimes against innocent civilians end now. Surrender immediately or share the fate of your comrades. The message was clear across the galaxy. Earth was coming, and hell itself followed in their wake. The age of the Korth hegemony's unopposed slaughter was over. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity was very, very good at hunting. The Korth home system was a fortress of death and metal. Massive orbital defense platforms hung in space. Like mechanical spiders, their weapons arrays bristling with enough firepower to shatter moons. 400 Korth warships floated in perfect battle formation around their homeworld, their hulls painted with the blood-red markings of their countless victories over defenseless colonies. Admiral Baswen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, his weathered face illuminated by the tactical display showing the enemy fleet. The Korth had pulled every ship from across their empire, creating the largest military force they had ever assembled. Their commanders were confident no species had ever dared to challenge them in their own system. They were about to learn why that had been a mistake. "Enemy fleet composition analysis complete," reported Fleet Captain Oh Sang-wook, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. 400 ships total. 50 heavy dreadnoughts, 120 cruisers, 200 destroyers, and 30 support vessels. Estimated crew complement, 800,000 Korth warriors. Taemin nodded grimly. The numbers were overwhelming by any conventional standard, but human warfare had never been conventional. What about those orbital platforms? 12 battle stations, each one the size of a small city, Oh Sang-wook replied. Quantum torpedo launchers, plasma beam arrays, and kinetic barriers. They're designed to stop invasion fleets 10 times our size. The admiral smiled coldly. Korth had built their defenses to stop the kind of massive frontal assaults that other species might attempt. They had never faced an enemy that specialized in precision strikes and overwhelming firepower delivered at exactly the right moment. "Sir, incoming transmission from the enemy fleet," reported Communications Officer Nam Ji-hoo, his young face tense with anticipation. Put it on screen. The main display flickered to life, showing the bridge of a massive Korth dreadnought. War leader Thackerone filled the screen, his reptilian features twisted with arrogance and barely contained violence. His scales were deep, red with black markings that indicated his high rank, and his eyes burned with the fervor of a species that had never known defeat. "Humans." The Coroner's voice boomed across the void, transmitted on all frequencies so his entire fleet could hear. "You dare to challenge the might of the Korth hegemony in our own system? We have devoured civilizations while your pathetic species still crawled in the mud of your primitive world." Behind him, Korth officers clicked their claws in approval, their scaled faces showing the same arrogant confidence. They had heard stories of human victories, but they believed those were won against weaker species. The Korth were apex predators, the ultimate warriors of the galaxy. Taemin stepped forward, his voice carrying across space with quiet menace that somehow seemed more threatening than all of Thackerone shouting. "You murdered children. You targeted hospitals and schools. You hunted civilians for sport. You forfeited your right to exist." The Coroner's laughter was like the sound of breaking glass. "Empty words from a primitive species. Your 200 ships against our 400. Your single homeworld against our mighty empire. We shall add Earth to our collection of conquered worlds, and your people will serve as slaves in our..." The transmission cut abruptly as Taemin gestured to his weapons officer.
"Fire!"
The human fleet unleashed hell itself upon the Korth defenders. 200 ships opened fire simultaneously, their weapons systems coordinated by quantum computers that calculated targeting solutions faster than biological minds could process. The darkness of space erupted in brilliant flashes of destructive energy. Kinetic rounds accelerated to relativistic speeds tore through Korth shields as if they were made of paper. The depleted uranium projectiles, traveling at nearly the speed of light, carried the kinetic energy of small nuclear weapons. Korth cruisers simply disintegrated as the rounds passed through them, their molecular bonds unable to withstand the incredible forces involved. Plasma torpedoes, each one containing the fury of a miniature star, turned the mighty Korth dreadnoughts into funeral pyres. The superheated plasma ate through their armor like acid through tissue, detonating ammunition stores and fusion reactors in chains of brilliant explosions that lit up the system like deadly fireworks. From the carrier Retribution, fighter squadrons launched into the chaos, led by ace pilot Major Chen Yujin. Her squadron of 50 fighters moved through the enemy formation like deadly angels, their advanced targeting systems picking off Korth ships with surgical precision. "Fox 3, Fox 3. She called out as her quantum torpedoes locked onto a Korth destroyer. The weapon struck home, splitting the enemy ship in half with a flash of white-hot energy. Splash 1 bandit, moving to next target. Captain Seo Minjun watched from the bridge of the destroyer, wrath as his railgun batteries tracked onto a Korth heavy cruiser. The massive alien ship was trying to bring its weapons to bear on the human fleet, but it was too slow, too clumsy, compared to the precision instruments of war that humanity had created. "Target locked," reported his weapons officer. Firing. The railgun discharged with a sound like thunder, sending a stream of projectiles downrange at incredible velocity. The Korth cruiser's shields flared and died under the assault, and then the rounds were chewing through its hull, turning metal and alien flesh into an expanding cloud of debris. Target neutralized, Minjun announced calmly, acquiring next target. The battle raged for 4 brutal hours. The Korth fought with desperate fury, but they were facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. Human ships moved with deadly grace, striking from unexpected angles and vanishing before return fire could find them. Their weapons were more advanced, their tactics more refined, and their motivation was absolute. When the orbital bombardment finally ceased, the once mighty Korth fleet existed only as scattered wreckage drifting in the cold vacuum of space. The orbital defense. Platforms had been reduced to twisted metal sculptures, their weapons silenced forever. The homeworld's military installations were now glass craters that reflected the light of their dying sun. But in a demonstration of the fundamental difference between the two species, the civilian population centers remained untouched. Taman had given strict orders only military targets were to be engaged. The humans had come to end the threat, not to become the monsters they were fighting. The mighty Korth hegemony, terror of the galaxy for centuries, had been broken. In a single afternoon, by the children of Earth, the Korth command center looked like a hurricane had torn through it. Twisted metal beams hung from the ceiling like broken bones, and sparks flew from damaged control panels. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid smell of burned electronics. Admiral Taman's combat boots crunched on broken glass and debris as he walked through what had once been the heart of the galaxy's most feared military empire. Around him, human Marines in powered armor secured the facility with methodical precision. Their weapons swept every corner, their enhanced vision systems scanning for any remaining threats. These weren't ordinary soldiers, they were Earth's finest warriors. Each one a veteran of countless battles who had volunteered for the most dangerous mission in human history. In the corners of the ruined command center, Korth survivors huddled together, their scaled bodies trembling with fear. These were the same aliens who had laughed while bombing schools and hospitals. Now they cowered like frightened children, their predatory confidence shattered by their first encounter with a species that could fight back, the once mighty war leader. The Karo knelt in the center of the room, his hands bound behind his back with quantum restraints. His arrogant demeanor had completely vanished, replaced by the hollow stare of a creature who had finally met something more dangerous than himself. Blood trickled from a cut on his scaled forehead, and his breathing was labored. The Korth hegemony is dissolved, Taman announced, his voice echoing through the ruined chamber. His words were being broadcast across subspace communication networks, reaching every corner of the galaxy. Your military is destroyed. Your fleets are nothing but scrap metal drifting in space. Your reign of terror ends today. Thackerone looked up at the human admiral with eyes that had once burned with predatory hunger, but now showed only defeat and fear. You cannot destroy us, he wheezed. We are the apex species. We have ruled for centuries. Taman looked down at the fallen war leader with cold contempt. You ruled because you preyed on the weak. But predators only stay on top until they meet something higher on the food chain. Colonel Yoon Hajin approached, his advanced rifle trained on the group of surrendering Korth officers. His stealth suit systems were still active, scanning the aliens for hidden weapons or cybernetic implants that might pose a threat. What are your orders regarding the survivors, sir? Taman studied the defeated aliens, remembering the horrific images from New Haven Colony. The burned playground where children had tried to hide. The melted remains of the hospital's pediatric ward. The glass shadows of families who had been vaporized while fleeing their homes. For a moment, the Admiral felt the same rage that had driven humanity across the stars. It would be so easy to give the order, to end the Korth species the same way. They had ended so many others. But that was exactly what separated humans from monsters like these. They will stand trial for their crimes, he said finally. Justice will be served, but it will be real justice, not the savage butchery they practiced. The Admiral activated his personal communicator, switching to the galactic broadcast frequency. His voice would reach not just his fleet, but the entire Galactic Council and every inhabited world within 50 light-years. This is Admiral Kim Taman of the Terran Defense Force, broadcasting from the captured Korth homeworld. Let this day mark the establishment of the Terran Protection Compact. Any species that targets civilian populations, any empire that commits genocide, any force that preys upon the innocent will face the full might of the human fleet. The age of unchecked aggression is over. The response came quickly. High Counselor Velmuth's voice crackled through subspace from the council chambers, his usual calm demeanor barely concealing his amazement. Admiral, the Galactic Council acknowledges Earth's decisive action. We welcome humanity's protection and pledge our full support to the new order you have established. Captain Oh Sang-wook stepped beside his admiral, looking out through the shattered walls of the command center at the stars visible beyond. The space around Korth Prime was still littered with the debris of the enemy fleet, glowing softly in the light of the system's dual suns. "I think they'll test us again, sir," he asked quietly. Taman smiled grimly, his weathered face showing the satisfaction of a job well done. "Let them try. Every predator species in the galaxy just learned a fundamental truth. There's always something higher on the food chain. And today, they discovered that humanity sits at the very top." Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire through quantum communication networks. On peaceful worlds that had lived in fear of raiders and conquerors, alien civilians celebrated in the streets. Children who had grown up hiding in bunkers finally emerged to play under open skies. Colonies that had been planning evacuations began constructing new cities instead. But in the dark corners of space, where aggressive empires plotted their next conquests, military commanders suddenly found themselves reconsidering their expansion plans. The hegemony of Korth had been the strongest military force in the galaxy, and humanity had destroyed them in a single day. What chance did lesser powers have against the fury of Earth's children? The human fleet began its journey home, leaving behind a small garrison to oversee the trials of war criminals and ensure the peaceful transition of former Korth worlds to Galactic Council protection. But their message had been delivered loud and clear across 1,000 star systems. Never again would defenseless colonies burn while their protectors filed diplomatic protests. Never again would children die while bureaucrats debated the proper response to genocide. Earth had drawn a line in the stars, written in plasma fire and quantum explosions. Declaring that the innocent would have guardians, the galaxy had a new sheriff. Its badge was forged from the hulls of those who dared to threaten the weak. Humanity had taken its place as the ultimate arbiters of justice among the stars, and they would show no mercy to those who chose to be monsters. The age of the Deathworld had begun, and the universe would never be the same. The end.